Hello, everybody. Meet Me in the Middle podcast. I'm Jackson. I'm joined here by my good buddy Justin, and we're trying to meet in the middle. We have a TikTok account now. Did I tell you that?
I think I knew that.
I was talking to one of the guys that does marketing and advertising for me at work, and he was really interested in the podcast and was asking me about, where we posted clips, and I was telling him how the YouTube reels were, or the YouTube shorts were doing better than I kind of expected. I don't have any experience with that. He goes, "Oh, you got to put them on TikTok too. You got to put them on TikTok." And I went, okay. So I'm going through and posting our old clips on TikTok right now. I don't know, the whole social media thing, like that we're getting eyeballs. We got a lot of comments on the Facebook stuff that you posted the other night. It's interesting.
In what way?
It's just, I mean, this last episode wasn't very controversial. These weren't like hard hitting clips. I mean, it was mostly me reminiscing that Hermosa is not the same as it used to be. But, the people that commented from my life, like, were people that I grew up in Hermosa with that kind of echoed, like, yeah, Hermosa used to be super cool, and now it's a little different. Not to say that it's not cool anymore, but it's not the same as when we grew up. But what'd you have for today?
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on that too, I even had somebody that I grew up with too, and that moved to Florida. It's gotten a little red over the years.
A little bit.
One of the comments was, and it wasn't a comment, it was like, it was a direct message and stuff, and it was, everything the left touches, they'd like destroy. And I'm like, because we're doing what we're doing now, right? I choose my responses very carefully.
Sure.
I don't want a whole lot of emotional response. I don't want anything to be, I don't want to say uncalculated or unprepared, but it's just, and I don't want it to come across as a perspective that I don't like adamantly agree with. That, again, I'm tired of the emotional responses, right? I'm tired of both sides really saying that, the only thing the right does is mess us up. And I'm like, you know what? And so my response was like, look, in the particular things that I'm talking about, these particular areas of California and the issues that I see with California, right? It's really hard to blame Republicans or rights in California at all because they're outnumbered like crazy. It's not even close. So we do have a state ran by largely Democratic and blue and progressives and of that like. And, so unfortunately, the way that the land lies here is that if things go good, well, then we have to say that they went well. And why did they go well, right? But there's always a bad. And if it goes bad, you're also responsible for the things that go bad. So it's, in the areas of industry, whether it be car business, whether it's the way the money is managed, whether it's Hollywood and it's taxes and everything else, it's not the Republicans doing that stuff. So when it comes to running this state and you look at the Californians that have left or the ones that are still here that are just upset with the direction that it's going and everything, you have to put credit and blame where it's due. So I told her, I said, look, in the areas that I'm talking about, yes, they are largely responsible for a lot of these things because that's who's in charge. That's who was voted in, and that's who is making a lot of these things happen. I was like, but I even told her, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and act like the other side does not have some bullshit of their own that, pick another state where they would have the same issues or their own issues. I was like, again, I get it. And she lived here her whole life, growing up, and she just moved and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, more than likely, we can agree on some of the same stuff, that it's not the same, it's changed for this or that. But, again, you cannot curtail blame either. If you're going to pass initiatives and you're going to do stuff with money and it's not going to come through, you need to stand up and say that this shit happened. And unfortunately, if you have no Republicans in your way and it's all Democrats that have done it and progressives, who else's fault is it?
Sure. I mean, everything that happens, there's someone on either side that's going to say, "Oh, that's a great thing." and there's going to be someone on the other side that says that's a horrible thing. You know, I personally think that California is run. We are predominantly blue, and the things that happen there's a whole swath of people that say this is good what's happening, and there's a whole swath of people that say this is bad. Really is all about perspective. And someone that is bleeding red, that lives in Florida, that is only seeing it from that lens of on the right side, of course they're going to say like, oh, you know, everything's going to shit. If California was going to shit, no one would live here. No one would be happy. No one, I mean, like it's not all or nothing. You know, the fact that certain things aren't going the way that a fiscal conservative person would want, yeah, sure, I totally understand that perspective. From a social justice or a social and from a rights point of view, things are going pretty well in California. We have rights and we have protections, and you know, there's always going to be someone on either side of it. And it really does come down to that perspective. Like at the analogy that I gave you before, like I'm in the crowd of the left looking at the right. So a lot of my gripes are looking at what the other side is doing. And I am in the crowd, so I can't really see, I can't see the forest for the trees type of thing. And I think that we have to acknowledge that we're not seeing what's going on our side all the time. You know, like if you live with cats, you don't smell cat piss anymore because you're just used to it. And if you're, you know, I lived at the beach my whole life, and I didn't really appreciate the fact that I could just go to the water, you know, like we are flush with choice in California. And I think that some people,
yeah,
huh? Of course, you know. So I see what you're talking about. I mean, like you said before, if in one of our last episodes, like a lot of Democrats have been voted in, and you're like, yeah, I'm excited to see what changes. You know, like you're saying, oh, the right is causing all this shit. Well, let's see if the other side, you know, improves things. That improvement, the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. That improvement is kind of based on what side of it you're on, you know, and where your values lie, where your intentions and where your focus lies. Would you agree?
yeah. My only thing was that it's not all emotional, and it's not all perspective. There are tangible things that we can gauge from the initiatives that are brought, from the taxes and the money that's diverted. I feel like California has started to prioritize a lot of more intangible and social things versus the very tangible things that are going to keep and make California profitable and strong.
Sure.
If you're going to say that, you know, we have this balance of scale, right? Where we have all this real stuff when it comes to our industry, our businesses, keeping our population working, having this amount of money to then create value and then help socially. Sure. On this other side, we have, I guess, all schools need gender bathrooms, and we need to have these big social discussions where we have to divert all this money, and everything is about therapy now and all this other, and, you know, and it's, it ends up being, you know, we cannot solely push everything to these left things that need all this support while neglecting all the stuff that keeps the rest of the state working and going, is the one thing. And right now it seems like if you look at the failed industry that we have, it's all real fucking people. It's all real jobs and big industry that is falling down. So when you talk about 2 refineries, let's see what happens to gas prices. They're already bad. So let's see what happens to gas prices when both these refineries are actually closed and gone. You know, you talk about 500 people up north with Anheuser-Busch. Let's see what happens to the small town that big thing is in when 500 people don't have their jobs anymore, or the revenue that's not coming in. Anheuser-Busch, they're saying that the only reason they're closing down is because it's too hard to do business in California. The entire industry of Hollywood, you know, the trickle down effect of Hollywood not working anymore? All the restaurants that are surrounded by Hollywood, all the businesses that give props and build things for Hollywood. What happens if we're not filming things anymore? Yet we continue to throw money at these other things that we deem are important. And these, again, we have these iconic things that should be kind of the backbone of California and employment and generating money. And we're sacrificing it for what, really?
So let me speak to that. So I can't really speak to the refineries. I don't know enough about that to counter that. But I can speak to Anheuser and I can speak to the Hollywood a little bit. So we have studios in California. We have Warner Brothers, we have Paramount, they're Fox. Like we have studios here in LA, and there are other studios throughout California. They're continually filming things. It's not like Hollywood has come to a screeching halt. The big on location shooting that brings in a lot of tax money, you're right. A lot of that has moved to Georgia, a lot of that has moved overseas, and that is a problem that I do think can be addressed. But the studios aren't going away. Netflix is still filming things. Who like all the big studios are still in California, and I don't believe that they will ever leave. There is a need for that. There's always TV shows. There's always soap operas. There are always things filming in LA. Can that be improved? Of course it can, and I do think that we do need a bit of a correction for that. Anheuser is a Belgian company. This brewery that's in California is a satellite brewery to a Belgian, to a European, conglomerate that owns this. There are plenty of large breweries in California that employ far more than 500 people, and they're, this industries change, small towns change. Sometimes there's I know of towns that everybody worked on the railroad, everybody worked in freight. And then that industry kind of moved to a different place because policies changed or times changed. The routes were changing, the union rules were changing, and it made it not beneficial for them to be in certain areas. There's an ebb and flow, and it does feel like sometimes we're blaming one group over another. I mean, and it's not only because the people in power, but people's needs change and people's priorities change. And I think that there is a bit of obviously like some blame that needs to happen, but this is also kind of a natural flow of things, that industries change and times change. There's a lot of craft beer in California. There's a lot of big breweries. Firestone is massive in California. Stone is massive in California. There are a lot of breweries that are getting very, very large, and losing someone like Anheuser, isn't that, I don't see it as a massive problem that we need to like focus on,
I mean, some of it's a matter of perspective. I think
Sure.
if you were in that town and working for that company, it might mean a little bit more.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think it's negligible that we're losing one. And also at the same time, we can say Tesla and Toyota, and
Sure.
where In-N-Out's headquarters now, I think they're in Nashville. They're building, so you know, I, it, like I said, I'm not against everything that's happening, obviously. California was always going to be progressive. It was always going to be Democrat, but to think that, again, that you pull one string and something else, that there's not an effect somewhere else. Well, there is. I'm just like, it's again, there's plenty of stuff that can be thrown both ways. And it's just like, this wasn't crap that we talked about or stuff that we went through. Again, just like our last couple episodes, that I don't think a strong California is a 90% blue California. I don't think it's a red California either. I thought that California growing up and everything was a lot more purple and a lot more in the middle of a lot more common sense and a little bit more independent about how can we just not be Democratic and not be Republic, but how can we just be the best state possible and do things
I
that make sense for everybody? And then
do feel like we're there a little bit though, being like population wise. I know districting, you have big feelings about
definitely now, yep,
but
doesn't
hear
make
me out.
makes jack all the sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Hear me out though. If you broke it down person to person, just population wise, I think we are pretty purple. Wouldn't you agree? There's
Yeah,
the whole central part of
we're
California.
largely I feel like this state is probably it's probably in the 60 to 70% of just stark blue. There's probably another 20 to 25% of independents, and then whatever Republicans are left.
You think 25% of California is independent?
I
That seems high to me.
see. Well, the only problem though is that if you start pulling that number as being high, where are you redistributing it to?
What do you mean?
again, if 25% are not that, right? So you're going to shrink that class. Where does the remainder go? Does it
Red.
go blue or does it goes red?
Yeah, red.
So for me, I mean, again, let's just take all the redistricting that just happened. All of those counties are very, very red. All of
Yeah.
Orange County, most of Riverside, the Central Valley,
Yeah.
But where if you could put all of those people and it wouldn't total the amount of people in Los Angeles. They wouldn't even come close to the people in San Diego or San Francisco. And the
Sure.
majority of those people are what? Any by the coast. The number of people by the coast outnumber the people in the Central Valley and
I
East.
don't think you can lump San Diego in there with the blue. San Diego is very
Okay,
conservative.
one of the three.
Sure.
And LA and San Francisco are bigger than that.
Yeah. That's what I would say just by person in California that were probably 65% blue. I'm pulling that out of my ass.
The voting doesn't go that way. Whenever we vote
I
for
agree.
anything, it does not go that way.
I agree. But I do think that California is like policy driven. I think that people vote not necessarily down party lines, because a lot of people that I talk to when they hear of ballot initiatives and propositions, they're not looking at like the partisan side of it. But a lot of people that I talk to don't vote just like straight down party lines. They go,
Well, the only problem is that the entire people that push policy are all Democrats in this state. There are hardly any Republican representatives in the state anyway. So you can say that the policies are this, but if the policies are created and submitted by nothing but Democrats, they're all Democratic policies. There are no party lines when it comes to policy here.
sure.
Because it's not. Even in the redistricting, they didn't ask anything from the Republicans. It was a complete Democratic initiative that changed an independent party's districting of the state.
Sure.
I'm sorry, but that's complete Democratic overreach, and they did exactly against what you're saying. That was all party line and no policy. Even right now,
It went to a vote though. I mean, how can you say that it's
come on.
overreach?
There's no such thing as an actual vote in California when it's massively outnumbered by Democrats. The big shock would have been if it didn't pass for some reason. Then you would have thought, did 10 million people in California die overnight and not vote? Because if there is a vote to be had and there's a Democratic part to have in California, it's going to go that way. It's not even going to come close to the other side. They don't even campaign here, Jackson. That's how bad California is that they don't even campaign for votes. They come here for funding because we got a bunch of money, but they don't campaign here. If you don't campaign, it's not a fucking swing state. They're not wasting their time.
Yeah.
Which means what? It is massively blue. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the investment. So, I mean, it's, again, I don't know. I don't like the things I don't like, but it is what it is,
I think my point about like the Anheuser closing down is like, I get it. There are policies that didn't align with keeping that brewery open or keeping that refinery open. I don't like that could have happened and possibly would have happened regardless of the partisanship of the state.
The businesses, stuff happens.
They're just completely conflating like, oh, it's because of Democratic policies. Like, sure.
We can't say
that's all we have is Democratic policy. So
you can't say it's none though. It's not.
Of course,
we can't say it's all, and we can't say it's none. But
of course,
it's also not the only business.
Yeah,
it'd be one thing if it was the only one, sure. Then that's a you problem, but it's not.
Sure.
And I just saw they announced again another minimum wage hike. I think it's like $16 or something, and that's like statewide. But most places are already more than that. And then, I mean, I know I don't know if you've seen it, but there's already a bunch of walkouts for Amazon too, and Riverside again. And it's like
corporate greed, man.
That whole thing, I don't understand as far as Amazon not wanting to. I looked into it, not a lot, but it was something to the effect of Amazon not wanting to recognize the union that they were putting forth or something. And I was like, well, what's keeping you from doing it? I don't, and then you're in a state like California that obviously is going to want fairness and equality and representation and all that other kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't see how much longer you can avoid it. And it's going to be one of those things where what happens if Amazon just decides to leave California, which I think would be stupid because
they won't.
the amount of money they make just in California alone.
Yeah.
But what if they did? What
So
if push comes to shove and they're like, "Oh,
here's
fine, we'll leave."
here's something about that, because I agree with you. I think that there is there is a point where a business like Amazon says, well, it's just not, we just can't do it. You think about, we talked about this last time. New York, Seattle, or not Seattle, but New York, Washington, and California are freight hubs. Amazon can't afford to not operate in California because so much is coming in from China. So much is coming in on those ships every single day, right? So it's their, I think that they're locked in to California. Even if California becomes just massively unimaginably hard to work in, they're not leaving California. That freight line that's going through there, the distribution network that they have set up, they're not leaving that. And it's, I don't think that I don't think there's any chance that a business like Amazon, Tesla doesn't rely on the imports the way that Amazon does. Amazon is a logistics company, and that freight, part of the puzzle is a huge part of their business. Tesla, Toyota, they can be anywhere, and that is very much fiscal policy related. That they're moving to a state that has more favorable, environment for them. I get that. And I wish that it wasn't that way. That I know that car culture and the automotive industry is obviously far more important to you than it is to me. But from a business point of view, yeah, it's important. It's not great that those businesses left.
Well, yeah, because again, like it's not just the car. All the people, it's all the engineers, it's all the just the people that work for the brand, and the people that work for Toyota. Now they have to, there's a bunch of people, and again, that was a big thing with Texas, where all of a sudden you had this flush of Californians that came in,
Uh-huh.
and some of them not because they wanted to go to Texas, but because their job left, and if they didn't, they'd have to find another job. So they didn't. You can even say a lot of Californians, not like they assimilated very well to Texas because they wanted to go there.
But they're turning Austin and Plano into
Austin's
more.
always been weird.
Right, but now that influx, it's not like Texas weird anymore. It's starting to get kind of lefty weird.
It's
more
well,
lefty weird.
and even then, from what I've heard, it's always been artsy and kind of lefty
Yeah.
weird. Austin's always been that way.
But now, like Toyota went to Plano, right?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my big thing is just if we glance over all of this stuff that's happening, be it the exodus of people, where we have more people leaving California than coming in, be
Sure.
it the companies, where we have more companies leaving, I think it's one of those things where we could easily overlook it now as being, we're fine. California's going to be fine. It could be something that ends up being a problem later if you don't somehow address ways of shelling up and keeping the things that are genuinely us and employing the big industry leaders that we have. I know that those studios will still be there and those kinds of things, but all the big market production of all the, like everything that one of Paramount's big things is Landman right now. It's all getting shot in Texas. I mean, it is Texas based. It is about
Sure.
oil and stuff in Texas, but a lot of the stuff that Paramount is doing in general is kind of that countryside. They were going through like a countryside wavy kind of thing with what was the big one with there was 1812, there was 19
Yellowstone.
Yeah, that whole thing. I mean,
Well, Paramount is like outrageously conservative right now with like when they got bought by Ellison. So that doesn't surprise me that they're pandering to, and I'm sorry to use that word, but they're pandering to their base.
Well, and I don't know about so much pandering because those are great shows with great actors.
Of course they are. Yeah.
And they're not even now. I do like that in Yellowstone and in Landman too, there are certain parts where they say things directly in the face of like progressive policies when it comes to solar farms and when it comes to, you have these like gritty guys that work on the ground that still work with livestock or work with real elements of the world that run everything versus all of these environmental impact things. But we're seeing it in California too. where the solar farms aren't working out and where the windmills that we have out there, firstly, they're not biodegradable. You got to bury them in the ground when they're done. And it's like the carbon offset of diesel that it takes to get all of the windmill thing out there and then to take it, it's not offsetting all the
Sure.
that it took to get there in the first place. But nobody wants to talk about that. Oh, we're using wind and we're using sun and it's not off gassing, it's not this. And then you have other
But
people like, yeah, but how did it get there? How are you taking it away? And is it really generating all the stuff that you say it is? And it's not.
how do we innovate without making some mistakes, though?
No, and I'm fine with that too. But you
You
got to
know,
mitigate some of those mistakes.
of course.
I don't even know how much that stupid windmill farm costs, but it probably wasn't cheap. And it's just like, you know what? This whole thing is that there has to be a less impactful way to try things other than spending billions and billions of dollars.
I don't know if there is, Justin. I really don't. Like, I wish there was.
Okay. So if you
Maybe there is, but you have to break some eggs to make an omelet, and
yeah,
like
but you also don't think that the fucking money is real and the debt
it
isn't
isn't.
and debt isn't a problem and that we can just keep spending money for just haphazardly about whatever the hell you want.
Well, I'm not
I
saying
don't think
haphazardly for
it doesn't
anything
sound
you
like you
want.
care, man, at all, really. It just sounds like you want to keep running up the debt because it doesn't matter and it doesn't exist. Whereas, you know what? At the end of the day, it's your money and it is mine. If you're going to spend it like that, I want to keep my damn money. I don't want people just spending my damn money with no end in sight or no plan, and they don't know how much the shit's going to cost. I
They
can keep it
move.
for myself and benefit. No, I don't need to move. People like that need to stop doing this shit. It's not that everybody doesn't like it needs to move. It's my state
I
too.
agree with you.
It's my state too. And Democrats need to stop shoving my money in places where they have no fucking idea where it's going. That's the difference. And it's accountability. And it's
Okay.
not everybody else's job to fucking move. It's their job to be accountable and stop being stupid with everybody else's money. That's what it is, you know? And we can say what we want. I wonder what the deficit's going to do. You know what the hard part is? Is I think the deficit is bad. And I think the Olympics might save it just because usually the Olympics, you get flushed with money because everybody comes and tourism goes. And I would
Not that kind of money, though.
really hate for all of this mismanagement of money to be clouded by the fact that we just made a bunch of money when the Olympics come. That would really irritate me.
I don't think it's going to make a dent in it. This is a vanity contest. Yeah. No, the Olympics is it's a vanity thing. It's not like impactful for yeah. It's not going to make a dent.
It is
in
for
that.
Trojan.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I think that would be the one thing that I would invest in. Isn't it weird how that usually happens? No matter what country it's in, it's like you
Yeah.
always have to toss an inordinate amount of condoms
Yeah.
at the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's like they're all in these barracks together, and they have if they're not running or they're not throwing something.
They're horned up, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's such a weird. That's just such a weird. You know, I'd be curious
Yeah.
if Trojan was publicly traded, and I would buy like right before that just to see what would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a bad idea. Have you are you aware of Kalshi, that betting app?
Yeah.
Have you looked into it at all?
No.
It's really
It
interesting.
just seems like a cesspool, man.
It's really interesting watching. I threw $100 in it,
Okay.
and I placed a bet on the Kings the other night, and I don't know anything about sports betting. So a lot of this, like, you know, shiny newness. I was talking to someone that does a lot of sports betting, and he was like, "Yeah, that's sports betting. That's not anything new. That's not anything." And I was like, oh, I didn't know. Like being able to like bet and cash out during the game, and like, you know, that your team scores and your probability goes up, or, you know, being able to move with it, almost like stocks, like buying low and selling high. And it's really interesting. But seeing the pot for some of these games, the Kings game got up to like over 2.5 million. And I mean, like, there is a ton of money going through Kalshi, and you can see like it's like a ticker of all the positions that people are putting in, and it's like color coded for who's the high and who's the low, and it's graphing things like stocks. It's fascinating. Like I definitely don't want to get into it too much. I don't know enough about sports to do that. So like and anything that I'm putting money on is like, I don't know. I'm looking at the odds and going,
But don't they have some where you can bet on the economy turning down or like
yeah. Yeah.
If
Will
if
yeah,
someone,
I mean, will the Epstein files get released this month or next year?
especially
You
today,
know,
isn't it?
yeah. Hopefully, by the time we release this, Venezuela and U.S. aren't at war. But
God, you know what? I keep looking into that too. I mean, obviously, I think, we'll end up talking about that eventually. I'm still waiting for everything to shake out as to what's actually happening. Because so
what do
many
you mean?
things.
What's actually happening? Presidential powers during wartime, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
I know that is and he can't be voted out. So I know that is like he also can't declare all on his own. But
30 days, man.
for the Marines, yes,
Yeah,
not for anything else. So, and it's weird. It's that whole thing's been smoke and mirrors this whole time. They've been saying it's drugs and it's this, and then I've seen a bunch of videos where like these boats wouldn't make it to the mainland that they're blowing up. So I mean, it's not that. And then they're like, okay, well, fentanyl comes from Mexico, so it's not Venezuela, and cocaine comes from Colombia, so it's not cocaine. So what is it then? Like, what drug is it that they're? And then he just said something though. Trump just said something about and I shared that one thing with you from that show John Ryan where or Jack Ryan, where he's talking about Venezuela being a hub for raw material, gold, oil, everything. And I'm like, well, that kind of makes more sense now. And then Trump just came out and said stuff about, I don't know if we had American oil companies there already and their land. And it seems like that's what he was gearing towards, that we had some, and again, I don't know everything yet, but that we had some type of oil interest, either in land or in property and like
sure.
systems. And Venezuela, kind of like the only thing I can equate it to is like an eminent domain thing where they took it all back. And that's why we're going after the tankers now and everything. So it ends up being more of a raw material thing
Yeah,
than it ever was a drug thing. Like, yeah, are these guys
it
out there
always is.
in dinghies flying around? Yeah. But are we anchoring around raw material and doing something like with oil? I
Always.
wouldn't be surprised. And it puts us in that same conversation of when I told you that one question, right? How Jewish people across the world are being a little bit more persecuted because of the way that Israel is
Uh-huh.
kind of conducting their war over there. I'm feeling the same thing where like we have two carriers over there, one on its way, all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know if this really needs to be happening right now. And it's like, unfortunately, by proximity or by, it's going to somehow, everyone's going to look at us because of what's happening. And it's like, God, every time something happens, I really hope something was there. Like, I really hope something was there.
Well, there's something in every country. There's something in every country. Afghanistan had lithium, and the Middle East had oil, and Venezuela's got oil, and it's got all kinds of other stuff. Trump's got this thing up his ass about like rare earth minerals, and
I honestly wouldn't doubt it. There's a lot of interesting things in Venezuela. Steel and like iron ore.
every country has something, and we are gluttonous for raw material.
Yeah.
But there are so many motivations to do these things. There's just pride, like, oh, Maduro doesn't like Trump, and so Trump is puffing his chest up, and he's like, well, I'm going to do this. Any president could and sometimes have done that. It's a vanity thing. They want to look strong. They want to have a strong position. There's oil. There's the under the guise of drugs. I mean, if we didn't have a taste for drugs in this country, it wouldn't be profitable for them to bring drugs in.
Oh, yeah, sure. I
And
mean,
so
they have to have buyers, right?
there's a cause and effect of this. Obviously, drugs are highly addictive, and you create the need and you supply the demand, right? And so yes, it does go back and forth, but there's an appetite for drugs in this country, and we're not addressing that under that situation. I mean, it's just like medicine in this country. We're dealing with the symptoms and not looking for a cure.
I don't think we know a cure, honestly, because the left is going to say that it's therapy, it's detoxing, it's all these things. The right's going to say, let's just shut down the border, then nothing can come across.
That's not, but that exact same rationale about guns doesn't work. Shut the border down and the drugs will stop. What? Okay, well then let's regulate guns and then school shootings will stop. It's like you can't have one. Like, there will always be bad actors. There will always be people that will smuggle things in. That will happen, and we're we're kind of pissing in the wind with a lot of this, and I know that that's really sad or defeatist to
It's
say.
not very optimistic, I'll tell you that.
I get, yeah,
But I mean,
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
humans have had problems with drugs since we first ate berries and shit we shouldn't have ate. But I mean,
yeah,
we're curious creatures and it happens. I mean, as soon as we discovered opium, but that was way back in like the times of the Romans and stuff where they had opium and they were like cooking shit and everything. So I mean, humans have always looked for experiences and you know things. It's just a matter of like how do you once it gets here and it's like detrimental to a society, then you're like, okay, well we have a problem, and
yeah.
how do we fix it?
Well, we're very hedonistic. I'll speak just from this country, but like we're very, very hedonistic in this country. We're always pleasure seeking.
Yeah,
And part of the, let's say, like one piece of the opioid crisis, was like painkillers. And,
but yeah, that was big.
a plumber hurts his back, gets on opiates,
Yeah,
the prescription stops, and then he turns to street opiates. There are several pipelines to addiction that we could address in many different kind of social ways, having more paid time off, having more flexible working environments, having different, changing some of the way that opiates and drugs are prescribed. There are a lot of small incremental changes that would have butterfly effects on the overall drug addiction and drug issue in this country. People will always, always be looking for ways to get fucked up, for ways to alter, for ways to disassociate. There are mental illness, like heretic and genetic mental illness that cause these issues. I had a personal friend of mine, his son, schizophrenic, and hated the antipsychotic meds that he had to be on. And he was very clear about it. He was a very smart guy. And when he was coherent, he was sweet and compassionate and very easy to talk to. But you'd see this little switch. And he told me once when he was lucid, he goes, heroin makes it go away. I don't hear the voices. And he said, I'm sorry. Like, he's like, it's just, he's like, I don't like being a homeless drug addict, but the voices don't stop. I knew a guy when I was going through treatment 20 years ago that he had hepatitis, and he had lots of pain and lots of like ailments. And he goes, I didn't feel this way when I was, smoking PCP. He goes, I didn't feel these effects, and I get it. People want out of their pain. They want out of the discomfort that they're feeling. And so there's 1,000 reasons why people turn to drugs. I think a big part of it is people like to party. Americans like to party.
I think that it can start recreationally like that.
It always does.
Well, there's two paths, right? There is that one that you mentioned before where it's medicinal.
Yeah.
And we've had the pharmaceutical companies blatantly lie about habit forming stuff that they have in their products. They overprescribe because of money and everything. So I mean that was, I mean, first it was Vicodin, and that was bad. And then all of a sudden we get Oxy and like, oh no, it's not habit forming, it's not Vicodin. Oh, it absolutely is. So then we have the whole, and my grandmother, she got hooked on Vicodin and on Oxy, and she died probably way earlier than she should have. And it's just one of those things where she was not in control of it anymore. It really got to the point where she couldn't live without it. And that dependency thing is a huge issue. And that was from the medical associations. It's from the doctors. It's supposed to be the people that are helping you.
Yeah.
You're just prescribing this stuff that you're going to get hooked on and not be able to kick. And then, again, and then the hospital is going to be like, and then I think that we misunderstood that stuff early on too, and the treatment for it. Because a lot of them is just like, oh, we'll take it away and like sweat it out. No, that's not how that stuff worked.
Yeah.
It actually changed stuff in your brain, and then you had to wean off of it with like, what was it? Methadone, I think, was a way
heroin. Yeah.
off of it.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, we saw our family members and the people that we knew as, like, drug addicts, and they couldn't shake this.
As
Where's your
bad
where's
people.
where's your personal
Yeah.
power to not say no? And it's like, yeah, but when you had these things, it messed with your brain. So it's like, I had so much greater I had times where saw how my grandmother was acting, kinda like detoxing the house and stuff, and there were times where I was not compassionate about it, where I was like,
Sure.
"What's the problem with this? Why can't we," you know? And then, unfortunately, that what was that one with Michael Keaton that came out? He had a series where Michael Keaton was a doctor, and
Man.
I can't
Wow.
remember.
You're like flooding my memories right now.
It's not drugged, or it's,
I can't remember
I
the
can't
name of
remember
it
the
now.
name,
I know exactly what you're talking
but
about.
it was
I can see
about
it.
Nothing But Oxy,
Yeah.
and how they explained all that. And my mom even had a hard time watching it because she's the one that actually dealt with my grandma and all the stuff that she was going
Yeah.
through. And I had to tell my mom, I was like, "You know what? This actually gave me a lot more insight to what she could have been going through."
Yeah.
And I don't view her nearly the same way that I did, and, like, how she was behaving and what she was acting. So it's crazy what understanding gives, how it changes your perspective of understanding what these people are going through, and that it's not just an addiction to things. It's this thing made a chemical change in your brain that you cannot overcome.
Dope sick.
There you go. Yeah.
Dope sick. Yeah.
Fantastic series.
Yeah.
But that was huge, you know? And even, like, right now, we can talk about, Reiner's kid, right? I really don't know what all he was going through and everything else, but it seems like it wasn't a little bit of stuff. And, you know,
Well,
you hear certain
strong mental illness mixed with a little bit of drug addiction, even a little bit of each one, is a very volatile combination. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, we have a drug problem, we're probably always gonna have a drug problem, and we just can't agree on what the remedy is.
I think it's kind of like we talked about before. It's like we need to cure cancer. It's like, well, what kind of cancer? All cancer. Like that's not a thing. Drug addiction is not going to be solved. Drug addiction is going to be diluted, through better regulations of doctors and prescriptions, better.
Pharmaceutical companies in general
Well,
are oversight for the
that's
shipping.
a big piece of it. But again, like I really do like you look at places like Australia, they get a month, 2 months of PTO every year. People just go on holiday. People that have time off of work that are not struggling to make ends meet and working themselves raw and then getting injured and getting into this cycle, that's a big part of it. A lot of that pharmaceutical stuff is because of work, like workman's comp type of stuff, and like injuries on the job, just overdoing it, bending over backwards to support your family. It's hard. There's a lot of pieces to it, and so that it's a complicated web of pathology that we have to deal with.
Well, and it's tricky too, right? Because a lot of the supportive things that you would mention and things like that are investments that the company now has to make that are gonna make doing business more expensive. So, I mean, and we both know, I mean, we both went through business and everything. We know that it's not always monetarily conducive to massively support your work staff. You know, it's that's a cost that's going to take
Sure.
away from profits and stuff. Now, if just like you're saying, there are companies now that make a ridiculous amount of money. So we would think that adding in some of this may not be so bad. And then you think about the public opinion of a company that helps out their staff more and contributes more to having positive morale. I would think that it would be a plus plus,
I can speak to this though.
except for the money that's invested, you know?
I can speak to this. So when I worked at Starbucks, and again, this was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I know that Starbucks is not the same as it was 20 years ago, but I will always be a huge stand for Starbucks only because I was an idiot, like 21, and I working 20 hours a week. I had they consider that full time. I had dental, medical for like $80 a month at that time. Obviously, it's a long time ago, but I had affordable healthcare, dental and medical at 20 hours a week, and they reimbursed for tuition for school. There was opportunity, and that under Howard Schultz, that at that time, Starbucks as a company spent more money on healthcare than they did on coffee beans for Starbucks. And that was huge. And I remember at that time of Starbucks being like, "Oh wow!" And everybody, all the stores I worked at, there wasn't anybody that was like, "Oh yeah, Starbucks sucks." There were lazy people that were like, "Oh, Starbucks," but in general, everybody had healthcare, and everybody had opportunity, and we had hours, and this was like at the beginning of the bubble, of the housing bubble. So yes, everybody was kind of flush at that time, and I won't forget that component of that piece. But I worked through 2009, and when the crash was happening, and Starbucks is not the same. Obviously the CEO is different. The company direction that they've taken is a little bit different. And it's probably not the same thing now. But I know that is a possibility for big companies to do that, to still make massive profits and expand and innovate and still take care of the people on the ground floor. There are drug empires, gangs in Chicago that if you die selling drugs for them, they will pay your family whatever you were going to make for 2 years. That they have death benefits. There are organized crime syndicates, drug syndicates that pay death benefits. Companies like Amazon take out peasant and Walmart, they take out peasant insurance. They get life insurance on their lowest people. And does that life insurance pay the family? No, it pays the company to replace them. They're putting money into the workforce, and it's not going into the workforce. They're shorting, if you will, their own employees. This is possible, though. This is possible that we could get to a point where these big companies are doing that.
Yeah, and it's what's interesting too is like for every person that says like the left destroys like everything. I was like, yeah, but you know what? I don't think we'd have Social Security. I don't think we'd have unemployment. I don't think we'd have unions and everything else without left people organizing and saying that us as a group as a whole need to be doing things a little bit better.
Sure.
So, whereas a lot of Republicans die on the hill of like, I want to make my money, keep my money. You don't have to worry about me. You also live in a society that has more than just you, and it's not only about you. And we have to like do, and then capitalism is great, but unchecked capitalism is just going to do what you say. It's going to end up hurting maybe not the consumer, maybe not the top people, but it's hurting people's in ways where they're not getting everything they should be getting. Because when you control the low level of cost to generate high levels of profit, that low level of cost is trimming from somewhere. And more times than not, it's the hands-on workforce that's doing something. And if you're making as much money as you say you are, and all these people at a certain level and up are just making extraordinary salaries and stuff, there's obviously some money that can go around to help and protect and reinforce the people that are driving the company. And I think it's just, again, it comes into personal and corporate greed and certain stuff like that. Again, I'm not retreating on everything. I think,
of course,
our capitalistic ways have made us the country that we are, good or worse. And I also don't want to turn into Canada and the UK where it's a socialist state and they're policing speech. Because again, we're going to get to the same point where it's progressives that are worried about speech and you can't say these things and lock them up and cancel them. And I don't want to be policed that way either. So you get to this freak level of, again, safety where it limits your levels of freedom, and you're not going to take my freedom away from me.
The left and the right are both doing that, though. The right is pushing towards any speech against Trump, any speech against the...
I understand. That's only one facet, but it's not in the public domain of people walking down the street and you saying something they don't like, and then now they come after everything. Right now, one of the big things is a receiver for the Rams supposedly did some type of... I didn't even know that it was an anti-Semitic thing or something, but he did something with his hands or some shit. And now some congressman or something is saying, oh, he should apologize or be removed. And I'm like, he's an NFL receiver. Who gives a shit what he thinks or what he does? Like, why don't you go watch him on the field? Because that's where his job is. But you want this 24-year-old kid playing for the Rams to have know everything about the world and all this and he didn't say anything. It was like a dance, or it was a touchdown celebration thing that he was doing with some guy on camera. And I'm like, go fuck yourself. It's not that bit. Stop It's it's so stupid. Get your emotions out of your ass and go live your life. No one is looking for Puka Nakua to be the outlandish,
Yeah,
the front runner of anti-Semitism. Come on.
sure.
It's so stupid.
Well, but Miss Rachel was voted the anti-Semite of the
Yeah.
year. So what you were saying about unchecked spending on the left and versus the I'm going to make my money, don't bother me. Think about, I mean, there's so many memes out there, and I don't know if I 100% like agree with this, but I think that it does kind of make sense. For every husband and wife couple, one of them has a rigid budget and the other one likes to spend money. Whether that's a husband that has a tight budget and a wife that likes to go shopping sprees at Target, that it goes both ways. I think that we need that in this country. We need a fiscally conservative part of the government that's like, meh, let's not spend too much money. And then but we do need a progressive left side of the government that's like, yeah, but let's put it like, let's spend some money on this. Unchecked, either one goes too far.
Exactly.
They do. We need bipartisan support on this, and that to me is a big root of why things are not working in this country, is that no one's talking to each other. Everyone's like fighting and not like trying to work together. That's bad. There are so many big things, big accomplishments that this country has had, and you look back and you're like, yeah, that was kind of bipartisan. It had to be. There have been times where it's like a very the Democratic control over the House or Congress, and Republican control, and there's certain things that happen, but this ebb and flow has always been. There's always been a little bit of mixture. There's always been a little bit of purple, and that's like just not happening now.
Not now, yeah. I mean, and then you thought that, like, it seems like the next big issue would be this whole medical thing, where it's like we're so divided that somebody or a handful of people on one side or the other is going to have to work with the other side.
Right.
Otherwise we're not going to get anywhere, And I used to, it's weird, I used to be of the thought of like, it's the insurance companies, they're just screwing us. Like, my car insurance goes up, my house insurance goes up, medical insurance going up. And then I'm like, you know what? There have been a handful of times that I know of where construction workers that go in and do insurance claims and stuff.
Yeah.
Lie. They absolutely lie about how much it costs, which means the insurance company's got to pay it. There are times where I go in and get my car fixed, and the guy will straight ask before he asks my name. That might be the one thing. Are you using insurance or are you paying for yourself? And it's like, why should that be a distinction?
Yeah.
Because he's going to fuck the insurance company is what he's going to do. He's going to massively charge them.
Yeah.
And in medical insurance, I guarantee you is no different. Where if the hospitals and everybody know that this person has insurance, they're going to charge the insurance companies a ridiculous amount of money.
There was a guy that
don't have insurance.
Right. There was a guy that his wife gave birth, and it was like an emergency. They just like showed up at the hospital.
Bucks.
Yeah. And he called him. It was like trying to figure out. They're like, oh, the price is,
insured or uninsured, this or that.
Well, but they told him, oh, you came in without insurance, so it's going to be $4,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh no, but I have insurance, and she goes, oh, okay, well, she ran the insurance. 30. Okay, so with your deductible, it's going to be $8,000. And he's like, wait.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I thought you just said it was $4,000. Yeah, but that's if you don't have insurance. Okay, well, I didn't have insurance then. Oh no, but like you were covered at that point, so the price went up. His deductible didn't kick in,
and that has nothing to do with the insurance company and everything to do with the hospital charging it.
Yeah. My mom did sales tax work for a lot of hospitals, and seeing the prices of things and like the amount of sales tax that they pay, like the same piece of tubing, if it's used outside the body, is taxable. But if it's used like inside the body, it's not taxable. And like there's so many like very specific, if it's used for this, then it's this. And if it is for this, if it's insurance, then it's this. If it's private pay, it's this. That's wild.
Well, and sorry, but that's a big ass problem. I'm sorry. How many poor doctors do you know? How many poor surgeons do you know? Like there aren't any. I think the industry is doing just fine, honestly.
They're wiping their tears with $100 bills.
Exactly. And how much is an MRI? I'm for the same machine that's been in that stupid ass.
Did I tell you how much the Paxlovid was when my wife had COVID and I went and got the Paxlovid?
I don't even know what that is.
Paxlovid is the prescription drug that they give you for COVID.
I didn't know there was a prescription glove they gave you for COVID.
I've never seen it more than, I don't know, like something stupid like a $50 copay, $15, $20, whatever, I went and I go to Kaiser. The doctor called it in, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, we'll have it ready in a minute. You just pay your copay because I'll figure out what the copay is." And he calls me back over and he goes, "I've only seen this one other time before." He goes, "Your copay for this is like really, really high." I said, "Okay, well, it's a medication, like whatever." He goes, "It was $1,500.
Okay.
It was $1,570."
I know a road you can go walk down with that.
And he goes, "Do you still want it?" And I said, "Yeah." Because I have like my HSA, like my flexible spending thing, and there's money on it. He's like, "Yeah, my wife has COVID. Like we gotta take care of this." And he was like, "Okay." He's like, "I've only seen this, and it's because of my high deductible." And I was talking to my brother-in-law, who is a physician, and I showed him the receipt, and he goes, "What?" He goes, "That's insane. That's insane. Even if you bought it, if you just went into a pharmacy and said, I need Paxlovid and I have a prescription, but I don't have insurance, they wouldn't charge you that much." He goes, this makes no sense.
Or they'd even look for coupons and shit to try and get it cheap somehow.
Yeah. And like, this is Kaiser. This is like HMO,
I mean, again, that whole stupid ass conversation is just like, I think everybody wants to blame the pharmaceutical companies, and I think they probably have areas at which they could do better too.
Sure.
And my personal life experience when it comes to why things cost so much, it's not the insurance companies. It's the people abusing the insurance companies. And, we were going to come to a head at some point where the insurance companies are like, we're tapped. What do you want us to do? Like, these people,
well,
we're not,
it's greed, and it's the misusers, because it's getting into a point where, like, the Body Shop's a great example. Body Shop says, like, I can shoehorn in a bunch of little shit into this estimate, and I'll fix a few of the other things on the car for you, and we'll just soak the insurance company. And you go, okay. And it's kind of like, if I toss trash on the side of the road, like, does it really matter? But if you toss it and the next person, like, it's going to be a landfill on the side of the road. Like, there's a collective responsibility. And a lot of people just see their own little silo. They think, oh no, this doesn't affect anybody, but then it gets to a point where the insurance goes, well, we're getting soaked by these body shops, and we're paying out a lot of money, so we need to start raising prices. And then it's that boiling frog. They start charging more premiums, and then it gets to a point where they're kind of covering that misuse, and they're going, keep charging more and more. So now there's greed, and we're dealing with it. It's bad. We're just mixing bad and bad. And the people that lose are the people that don't get in accidents, that have to pay insane premiums. At some point it will make more sense to have a bond than have car insurance. You know what? Mark my words. There will be a company that does hard money bonds. We need $100,000 bond to drive your car. Great. I'll give you $100,000 bond. And you just pay me this little bit of money every month. There would be a whole new insurance type of industry that's just people holding bonds. That's going to be, I don't know. There is an industry out there that is not prevalent yet.
Well, it's already like that for me. Like, for me in my business, because I don't have employees.
Right.
I don't need to be insured. I need to be bonded, but I don't need to be insured.
Right.
So, I mean, if every person is just their own person and it's just your car, I'm like, yeah,
that's what I love about people that have insanely expensive cars. And it's like, oh man, your insurance must be something. I don't have insurance. I have $1 million bond. Why am I going to pay money every month? There's $1 million in the bank that if something happens, I'm covered. And that's all you need, is that piece of paper saying that you're bonded, and that you don't have to have insurance.
Yeah. And those people probably drive those cars on the weekends, once a month.
Yeah.
Why would you pay every single month on a car like that if you barely drive the damn thing?
Justin, I had an existential crisis the other day.
Existential. That's a
there
big word.
Was this like down ass foo driving down the road in Whittier, super, super cool dude. And he had I I know that this is going to sound, you're going to laugh at this because, and this is why I laughed at it too. He had the cleanest, absolutely cleanest 93 Honda Civic. It was like it just rolled off the assembly line. Okay.
Hatchback?
No, 4-door. Okay.
VTEC at least?
It was so clean. It was so clean. And I was like, man, who would like, why would you have a car like that? And then I'm like doing the math. I'm like, it's a classic car. 93. And I started to do the math. I'm like, okay, in 95, let's say when I was like 10 years old, a car that was 32 years old would be like a 73.
Yeah. Well, 63, but yeah. 90,
No,
30,
20,
65.
30. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So like my 67 Volkswagen, when my dad got it,
Yeah.
92,
Was almost.
was almost as old as that 93 Honda. And that broke my brain. It broke my brain because I saw someone driving like a Suburban. Same thing. There is car culture in Whittier and Pico and like around here. And it's that type of car culture. It's like the mini trucks with the hydraulics and everything. But there are dudes driving around these the cleanest 98, Silverado, or like these like 98 like Suburbans and Denali's and like the Yukons and stuff. It's like, man, like they're putting money into these cars, and I'm like, oh, why would you do that? And I start thinking, I'm like, oh, because it's a classic car now. That's wild to me. I'm old as shit, dude. This is insane.
Not only that, classic car insurance is next to nothing.
Right?
Doesn't cover a whole lot, but it.
Well, I remember hearing Adam Carolla talk about this insurance that he's only covered for like 100 miles a year. Like, he's like, yeah, I take it out for an hour every other week. That's it. He goes home.
Well, and then there was the whole, we always fight in this state about the anti-smog and no need for a catalytic converter past, what is it, 72 or 70?
Okay.
Anything pre-72 or 75 or 77, something like that.
Is it still that far back? I thought it was newer than that.
I don't know. I think it's still back then because cars just weren't made with catalytic converters back then. So you can't like install them post,
Oh, right.
And so, I mean, it was that classic car thing where hey, I got this old car. If I leave it the way it is, make me do things. But then we're having the interesting thing now too is the import laws are creeping up too. And like the Skylines of the late 90s and early 2000s, now you can, and those are some badass cars.
Yeah.
They're all right-hand drive.
Yeah.
And you got to import them from Japan, or Australia's got a bunch of, New Zealand or Australia's got a bunch of them. But
what do they call them? JDM, the domestic market?
Well, JDM is a Japanese
production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, it was the same thing with, okay, back when Newsom was like, oh, no gas power cars after 2035. How do you police that? What's to keep them from?
That's just production.
Going to Nevada and going to Arizona and buying a car and coming back.
Yeah.
How do you keep, you can't
lose all that sales tax.
Yeah, exactly. And right now, I don't know if you heard, Ford is done with the all electric thing. Toyota said they're never doing all electric, devoting money like that. Ford made the Lightning, which is all electric pickup.
I know, yeah.
And they're done. They're going that hybrid electric and everything.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
how are you gonna do it now?
It's wild that Fisker didn't work, because that was Fisker's thing.
Man, twice.
That was Fisker's thing.
They tried to come back again recently, and they still failed.
I loved the Fisker when it first came out. You and me, when we were cruising around in Hermosa getting lunch all those years ago.
Dude, it's a Fisker.
We were like, oh, look at that.
It's a cool looking car.
It was such a cool car.
Even their new SUV that they tried to make happen didn't look bad.
Like the Ocean, or
the solar roof, and it all made sense. But I don't know. That company just cannot stay afloat, man.
When I went to what award show was that? The Golden Globes. And I was on the red carpet. Leonardo DiCaprio pulled up in a Fisker, and it was really nice.
They're cool looking cars.
I only saw 2 or 3 of them in Hermosa, and it's probably the same one that I kept seeing every time. But that was just the look of the solar roof with all the cells and everything on top was so cool. They put like design into the solar panels. Like that's the part of it. It wasn't just like a straight solar panel. It was had like cool like circuitry, you know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
shapes
You
to
can
it.
see like the orange wiring or whatever.
Yeah. It was so cool. Yeah. But yeah, that is the way that these car companies are going. They're going to go with a gas generator electric motor, you know? And I love it. That's like that because that was the thing about the Lightning is that it's going to have 700 plus miles of range.
Mhm.
And when you're towing, obviously that's going to go down significantly. So you could tow something pretty large and still have an average range with while you're towing. That's so smart.
Well, you're building mini diesel electric trains,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you mean the things that carry the largest loads in the entire
Yeah.
world and go across the entire nation? It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
My sister's ex-husband worked on the trains, and I remember because I was asking him, oh, it's diesel, like he would haul coal, you know, so he's very very pro coal and pro fossil fuels, but he was explaining to me how outrageously fuel efficient those trains were. He goes,
Well,
they
especially
use
once
like
you get going too, that momentum they get, it's
he's like, well, a
stopping
full
is
size
the hard
train it
part.
takes. He's like, it's 1 gallon of diesel fuel per mile. But to pull a 2 mile long train, he's like, that's pretty efficient, you know.
Yeah.
And like we were actually going over it, and he's like, it's really efficient. It's crazy. I went, okay, that's interesting.
I mean, if the maths,
The maths, man, yeah. But yeah, the I don't know, the all electric. We're just not there yet. I love the get up and go of the Tesla that we have. All the electric cars I've driven, they're fun, they're peppy, you know, but they don't have the range. And Elon even said it. He goes, "Yeah, people want a 500-mile battery, but most of the time you're not driving that on a regular basis. So now you're just carrying around a massive battery that you're not using, and you know there is a balance in there. And for us, like we get at most 200 miles, and that's like 100% charge, which you don't do every day. And you know we take that into consideration because we don't really take the Tesla on longer trips. Anything more than like we took it to Santa Barbara, and it made sense because we stopped on State Street and charged while and we went to eat and came back. You know, like that whole charging system of like it being like near a restaurant or near a place to like shop, whatever, that does make sense. But that not every trip can do that. When we were thinking about taking the Tesla to Yosemite, and we would have had to stop like 3 times
yeah.
on the way. And it was so you think about it, every stop is for a big full charge is like 40 minutes minimum. Add another 3 hours, like that's 50% more time. That's not doable. A 700-mile range EV any day, you could get to Yosemite and back, you know. So yeah, I get it. Like we're gonna be hard pressed to get away from fossil fuel anytime soon.
At least, but again, admitting that we could use less
Yeah, of course.
is not a bad. I mean, I'm never getting rid of my Mustang,
Of
but
course.
I also don't drive it as much anymore. And then the F-150 is a hybrid, but it doesn't operate quite the same way. It gives me an extra, I want to say, 250 miles on a tank.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the big thing is like the engine is still massively in play all the time.
Yeah.
And the battery is there. Once you get up to speed or this generator mode that it has,
Yeah.
you need to plug it in, the brakes recharge it. I mean, so it's really cool. And the big part was always around town. Because once you get on the freeway, you can get the truck will go into overdrive, it'll idle at like 2,000 RPMs and you get what you get. But I drive it a lot around town to all of our jobs and everything. I mean, me getting 20 to 22 in the city versus it's a twin turbo V6, 16
Yeah.
ends up being a lot. And I don't sacrifice any of the pulling, any of the towing
Right.
because it has an engine there.
Right.
So I mean it's the best of both things kind of. It doesn't massively provide the way that this new system will work, but it gives me more than what a regular truck would have. And it doesn't need a V8. It doesn't need 5 liters of gas. It needs 3 liters of gas. So I mean, finding ways to get the same performance and the same power, but just adding in some electric elements to make it all work. Why we went from all gas to all electric and didn't skip this very obvious step in the middle,
Right.
I have no idea.
Well, this is I think I brought up, a while ago, like this is that shoot for the stars and land on the moon type of thing. Like
Do you think we landed on the moon?
you believe in the moon? Okay.
That's good. That's coming under Matt. Have you seen that recently?
Oh.
They're even interviewing one of the astronauts that was like went on the moon, and there's this guy that's like counteracting everything.
You better be happy that Buzz Aldrin's dead, because he would punch you square in the nose if you said that.
I mean,
Yeah, I know. But this is what I'm talking about. Is like we're gonna do 100%, and we're gonna end up with 80, and we're gonna be happy with it. We need to go all electric, and that's not going to work. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. But something like this, look at what it did. It made all these companies go gas generator electric motor. It's motivating them. And they might say, oh, well, we were going to do it anyway. Great. The fact is you did it. Okay. And that is why I'm okay with being a little bit reckless with our goals and being very satisfied with the progress. It's all about progress. If we said, we'll figure out this fossil fuel issue in 10 years, nothing would happen. Nothing would change.
the major difference?
Huh?
All that shit is private money. It's not
Sure.
taxpayer money. And that's the big yeah, shoot for the stars. I mean, SpaceX can do whatever they want. Great. It's not taxpayer funded. Go ahead and do whatever you want. All the shit that California is doing with everybody else's fucking money, that is everybody else's money. And there needs to be accountability for that shit.
Sure.
If you want to privatize it, no problem. Let private companies do whatever the hell they want to do. And then you have governments that say, hey, you know what? We're going to have these initiatives. Hopefully you guys can make them. That's fine. Let them invest their money. Let them do their R&D. Don't just play around with regular people's money and hope for the fucking best and then end up telling us that you just lost $3 billion of our money and it meant jack shit.
Yeah.
You didn't get anything out of it. It closed. There's no middle part of that. It didn't make back the amount and it closed permanently.
Yeah.
But what was made from it? The interesting thing I think they're doing is that they're trying to switch over everybody's house to being its own power source with solar and battery backup.
Sure.
They've pretty much found out that we cannot upgrade the grid enough to do everything that we want to do. But if you make every new house solar generated with battery backup, it doesn't have to pull as much. So it's just, I can see the direction they're going, but
the solar that we put on my mom's house is super, super efficient. It works really, really well. We got a bunch of big, huge rebate back. The electric bill for the front and the back house is next to nothing. The solar stopped generating, and there was no.
It's not dirty, is it?
No, it just stopped generating. There was no notification. There was no alarm that went off. There was no indication that it was not generating. And so my mom saw on her app, she just happened to look at it, and it was like, oh, no kilowatts today. She's like going back and back and back and back. It was like 2 months of not generating. And she asked me, she goes, because the Tesla app that I use has the solar panels and has our car on it. And my mom gets all the notifications from the car because we're using like a shared account. She goes, you get notifications when your window doesn't go up all the way. Like the car is sending constantly. Your door's not closed. Your car's locked. Like it's sending, but the solar sends nothing. She goes, that's crazy. Can't you set like alarms or something? And I looked, I did the research, and no, there's nothing that will notify you. And I started looking at apps, and some people have resorted to like an Android tablet that they put like as like a virtual, like a digital calendar on their wall, and it has a widget that just has the solar generation, so that they can like visually see, oh, we're not making anything today. It's crazy. So these battery backups, it's all well and good until they stop generating. You don't realize it because you're not using that battery until you're.
Well, do you guys even have? Do you guys have battery backup?
No.
Yeah. So the ones we do now, solar companies, we don't even install them without. We can't even get solar stuff without batteries now. They ask you,
that's awesome.
How many do you want? Not if
that's awesome.
do, but how many?
Yeah.
And it's like, but the hard part is that it's all lithium ion, which means it has to be signed off by the fire department because you can't put them out.
Right.
That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
They're all outside. The fire department needs to know where they are, so when they
Yeah.
come, they have that industrial
Yeah.
solvent that hopefully puts it out.
Well, you know how Teslas have the front trunk? You know, all of them, there's just a little pull thing under the car that just pops them. They're not secure in any way because the battery disconnect is there. And fire department, if your Tesla is on fire, they need to be able to just reach in and open that frunk. So the frunk, there's like warnings everywhere. Don't put valuables. Don't put anything, because it literally is just like you can pop it like a soda can just by popping it. And that's interesting to me. Like that the 12-volt battery went out on the Tesla, and it was like not charging right, and like it was like the battery degrades really fast when you don't have it on. And I was like, I could probably change it. And it's like just popping these things off. And I'm watching videos and everyone's like, yeah, you can do it. And then I found more videos that were like, don't do it yourself. You're going to mess it up. It's like, you have to disconnect the high voltage stuff, like like in a really specific order. And like, I was like, nope. Called Tesla and like had them come out. And I asked the guy, I was like, is this difficult to do? And he goes, no, it's just really specific. Like you cannot switch the steps around. It's A and B and C and D. He goes, I do it every day. So like I'm not even thinking about it. I just know the sequence of things to do it. He's like, yeah, you could do it yourself. I don't recommend you do, but thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate all of you. Check out our TikTok, check out our Instagram reels. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and everywhere that you can find your podcasts. Until next time, a good Corona to you, Justin.
Good Corona to you.
Take care, bud.
You too.